At least 4 protesters have been killed in Bangladesh as thousands call for a complete shutdown across the country. Violence has broken out between police and students in several locations in Dhaka and on the outskirts of the capital. Hundreds of people have been injured in the past week. Students are demanding an end to quotas for government jobs. Tanveer Chowdhury joins us live from Dhaka with more. So to what extent have the student protesters been able to impose this shutdown?
Pretty much quite an extent. I mean, the traffic is very light, very few public transport or private cars moving around, mostly emergency vehicle and essential vehicle. The city is very tense right now. There's been clashes going on in different sectors of the capital city. We've been to some protests. Just about quarter mile from where I'm standing, we can hear gunshots, stun and sound grenades. There's at least 6 private universities, and the students were out in the streets since morning, and they're still clashing with police there. There were helicopters, they were trying to land police helicopters, troops inside the building to disperse the students. Situation is also bad in other parts of the country. We have reports from Chattogram, which is the second largest post city. There's reports of clashes there and even in other parts of the country. This, despite the fact the government just announced by the law minister in the parliament in a press briefing urgently that the government is willing to sit down with the protesting students. This is a conciliatory message and a tone down by the government. And also in last evening, the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in a conciliatory speech said that they will go for a judicial inquiry as to who is behind all this chaos and crime and killings recently, and said that to have patience until the Supreme Court gives a verdict. But the students are very adamant. They want this quota to be abolished, and they said it's not just the quota anymore, it's the fact that so many people were injured and numbers of students were killed. We want those responsible for those to become brought to justice. Until and unless, we'll still keep protesting. So the situation is quite critical still, and the student appears to be still going on protesting. Despite government's effort to say that they want a compromise and sit down, the police are cracking down still all across the country, and right behind about a quarter kilometer you can hear gunfights and grenades and helicopters all around there trying to crack down on the students. So I can tell the situation is still quite critical and tense in the capital city as well as in other parts of the country.
And no doubt we'll come back to you later, Tanveer, for an update on that critical situation. Riaz Ahmed is executive editor at Dhaka Tribune. He joins us from the capital. It sounds like quite a dramatic and, as our correspondent said, critical situation. How much of a threat are these protests becoming to the government?
Yeah, I was listening to him that your correspondent telling from the Dhaka. Actually, life in Dhaka and most part of Bangladesh has come to a standstill, apparently. And the violence flared up at various places. And in most of the cases, the students are at the recipient end of this violence. At places there are law enforcers, and also at several places, allegations of ruling party student front also attacking them. So that's kind of a situation where, so far, we also came to know that 4 people have been killed and 6 more killed, as you know, day before yesterday. So the situation is really volatile, but government has, as your correspondent was also telling, that just barely an hour ago, they offered that government is ready to talk to the protesting students.
The government says it's ready to talk to students, but to what extent is the issue up to the government now? Because my understanding is this has gone to the Supreme Court and it was moved by relatives of veterans of the War of Independence who were not happy with an earlier government decision to scrap the quota system. So is the position of the government here really, one, A, that it wants to keep the quotas in place, and B, even if it wants to, does it really have much say if it's up to a Supreme Court ruling now?
Yeah. I got your point. It's really tricky. This situation is really tricky. But remember, just briefly, in 2018, when there was a protest for months this group of students were on the streets and the campuses, and they have been asking for, all along, they have been asking for quota reform, not abolishment. At that point of time, there was a quota, 56% of quota in the government job for various groups, and only 44% on the basis of merit.
But
so
could the government have done
agitating.
anything at that point while the case was bouncing around between the High Court and Supreme Court?
At that point, what government did ultimately, that they abolished the whole quota system. They made it 0%, which they never asked for, actually. Now, afterwards, after 3 years from then, two persons went to the court asking for reinstating those quota. So the High Court just recently came up with a decision which essentially facilitate the reinstatement of those quota system, which these students are now agitating again. And government is saying that we have appealed. I mean, government itself is a party here and appealing to the court, asking that they want to go back to the 2018 their decision of no quota. But students are also saying that. But in the process, there is a huge amount of mistrust going on the same issue, coming one step forward and going back. These sort of things. In the process, students are seeing that their future is bleak. I mean, and they don't. As the things, as you say, that is in the hands of the court, and the court schedule is finally the appellate division of the High Court. High Court
so
of
what
Bangladesh,
happens on August the 7th if the court rules to keep the quota system?
Yeah. You see, I mean, it's all of this protest now. Today, government is saying that in 2 days' time, coming Sunday, there will be appeal. Government will go back to the court and will try to bring forward that date of 7th August, bring that forward by talking to the Supreme Court authority. So this kind of thing, government could actually, and government is saying today that they are ready to talk to the agitating students. But this could have been done. I mean, from the executive branch of the government, they could have shown this path of communication, having dialogue, and activism that they are showing, that talking to engaging with the court. This could have been done more than 2 weeks ago, rather than now. So, and in the process, many lives have lost.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for your analysis on that. Riaz Ahmed from the Dhaka Tribune.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.